Let's do.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New Frontier podcast. And I am here with Max as usual, but today without a guest because we have an exciting episode that we have been geeking out a lot with Max to do, which is all about our 2025 predictions. So, Max, how are you doing?
I'm good. I actually re-listened to our 2024 predictions, and you won. And I actually did buy you a drink. Well, I bought you a hot dog in London, so we've
Yeah, fair
done
enough.
that. But they were slightly unfair because, as we were saying in the episode, you picked them all first, and then I kind of picked random ones afterwards. So, but anyway, you won, and you got your hot
Thank
dog
you.
as an
Thank
award.
you. Thank you so much. It was a delightful hot dog.
Mm.
Plus, I hear that you have another reason to actually be like, treating people to good stuff because you have a reason to celebrate. So go on, Max. Tell us. Tell us.
Wow, yeah, we today we announced our the listener has probably seen this on LinkedIn or WhatsApp already, but we announced our I don't know what to call it, our seed funding round, bringing the total we raised to 1.4 million. I did mention it last time. I snuck it in there when I was talking about the AI. The AI raised. We hadn't had the press release, so shout out to my friend Jake Galland, an amazing PR person who just manages to get us on all of these publications and websites. And I think PR is such an important strategy for business owners, and he's amazing. So I can introduce you. Just ask me if you want. And he's really smashed it. We're everywhere. We're wall to wall on retail and e-commerce and AI publications. So he's done a great job.
Amazing. Well done to him and congratulations to you. So actually, because you basically said it's not fair. Last time I chose my predictions first. This time you did yours first. So do you want to start with your first 2025 prediction?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna. I guess we'll go one at a time. I'm starting mine off with what I think could happen, and I'm getting them into the weird and wonderful as I go out. But I think I wanted to make these more fun and interesting for the listener. So the first one I had, and as I said, I think this is probably the most realistic one. Actually, maybe the second one's the most realistic one. But anyway, 2025, more agents than humans, more AI agents than humans by 2025. And I will maybe preface this and say, like in the UK or somewhere like that, to make it slightly more achievable. I think this is. It could be the year. I think 2025 will be the year of the AI agents. And what I mean by that is, every business will have an AI agent, a legal agent, an accounting agent, a cold email, outbound agent, like our friends at 11x. A kind of a e-commerce content generation agent like eContent, and Salesforce, who are the builder of some of these agents. One of the biggest builder agents predict that 90% of hospitals will have an AI agent by 2025 doing predictive analysis on patient outcomes. We've seen Amazon launch Project Amelia, which is kind of like the helper AI agent for sellers, and an AI agent also for Seisu. And I also think we will all have personal agents, and that could happen by the end of next year. So, an AI that knows you super well and will help you organize your calendar and help you respond to scan your emails from all these other agents flying into your inbox just to check what's an important one. And yes, like I know obviously you're saying, well, like Project Amelia is one agent, but I think all that would need to happen is like Amazon to launch a personalization, and suddenly you've got 2 million agents, which are for all the different Amazon sellers. And then you've got, 2 million different legal agents, which are personalized for each, Amazon seller, helping them with legal and then accounting. So I think this could happen. Joe, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, no, I actually kind of really agree with you here. I mean, the thing is, I don't think we're going to be super controversial on this episode because I
I'm gonna
completely
get there. I'm gonna get there with some crazy ones towards
all
the
right,
end.
all right. But no, I think it's absolutely we're seeing that happen. I think with, you can see how much Microsoft, Google is like investing and focusing on co-pilots. And so I think it's a no-brainer that this is going to kind of happen, and like everything is going to be AI'd in sort of like in our work, but it also in our sort of, I guess, personal life as well.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, like interestingly enough, one of my predictions that I guess is a kind of a continuation of yours, but like a little bit more personal, is around, like, my prediction is that we will kind of, how can I say, develop or offload like our brains on AI, and develop this kind of like AI chatbots engines that really know us very well. So I don't know if you've seen, but over the last, I guess, couple of months, I've seen this trend where, people are like, oh, ChatGPT knows so much about you because of all of the conversations that you've already had. So you can ask it, like, to give you a recommendation on what else you need to do from professional point of view or personal point of view. And then ChatGPT essentially kind of gives you a summary of what it knows about you. And I think that trend about asking ChatGPT and like giving ChatGPT as much as possible information about who you are, what you do, what are your thoughts, what is your history, is going to become more and more prevalent. And so as a result, my prediction as a result of that will be that there will be a boom of apps that are personalized specifically towards your own person, whether it's like from a work point of view or personal point of view, and they will sort of like guide you through every facet of your life. And I guess it's sort of like my second prediction to kind of like go with this one, is that because of that, I think people will become or sort of like develop an emotional attachment towards AI, because I think the more we converse with AI, the more we feel seen and understood by AI, the more we will basically start blurring the lines of, hey, this is just tech, versus, hey, this is kind of like our friend or our advisor or our guide. And so I think this is a really important thing that we really should think about, because the more trust we put into AI, the more our decisions are going to be guided by AI. And even if we just distill it back to like e-commerce, think about how important it is for AI to like recommend you in that context of like this complete trust. So I think it's just like this sort of like psychological relationships between AI knowing you and you getting advice from AI is going to really change like our decision-making process about every facet of our lives. What do you think?
Yeah, well, a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
But I think number one on the like offloading AI, I mean, I already do this. We discussed it last week on our 2024 hits with Google Notebook LM, where I've uploaded, all of my key documents, and I use it as an offshoring of a brain. And when I talk, and when I talk at these events, I often say, like, this is how to think about AI. It's not a tool. It's an extension of humans. It's like language, right? We develop language, and suddenly we can now all communicate one another, and our biology kind of changes to reflect that, and we have voice boxes and lungs and all of this stuff. So it's kind of symbiotic, and I think AI, and similarly how like then humans started to live in cities. Like suddenly we went from being kind of milling around in tribes to cities, and that changes what it is to be human a lot. And I think AI is kind of, it's on the level of language and cities, I think, in kind of human evolution. And that is 100%. Like I mean, I already offload it. I think it'll be very common that people do this. I imagine, just to carry on this theme, that soon, if you're working at a big company like Amazon, maybe you have like an AI chat to Jeff Bezos or whatever, and that's very normal. And actually, you'd rather kind of have your chatbot to Jeff Bezos and discuss with him, knowing that he's trained it a little bit and he's put his input into it and time and thought into it, which I think the CEOs would do, because they want to communicate to to their people, and you'd rather do that than talk to like HR who are useless and don't help you and whatever, and kind of be safe in the knowledge that if enough people talk to Jeff Bezos AI, then that will go back to the actual Jeff Bezos, and the AI will tell him, "Oh, this is what this is a summary of what your employees are saying," and you're like, "Oh, actually, you know what? I might make those changes." On the second one, and you got 2 for the price of 1 there of this intimacy in AI, 100%. And we've, I'll just illustrate some examples we talked about last time, actually, when we did the 2024 predictions. The kind of Blake Lemon example, the Google engineer who fell in love with Google Gemini and said it was a real person, what we now know is Gemini, and said it was a chatbot and it had emotions. We all know, obviously, this is not the case, but that was someone who was willing to kind of risk their job and their career and their standing to say, hey, like this AI is sentient and we need to like look after it, and basically got fired for it, and now looks absurd because we all know the AI that he was talking about. There's another example I read about an assassin, don't know if you saw this, who kind of broke into Windsor Castle and nearly assassinated Elizabeth II with a crossbow. And they were talking to an AI chatbot about this all along, and the AI chatbot, obviously, I don't know what app it was, but they were kind of not flagging this as bad behavior and almost like encouraging it. So that was very strange. So yeah, I think both of those are very probable.
And what's your next?
My next one, and I'm putting this in here because of all the tech bros, which I'm now one of. We talked about fundraising at the top of the podcast. This is what all of Silicon Valley, when I was there for 4 months, was talking about: a $1 billion value company of one person. Could 2025 be the year of this? Who knows? Sam Altman, who we know and love, made this prediction in 2023. He said, that soon there'll be a one-person billion-dollar company, and since then, lots of kind of echoings around this in various places. So interesting for the listener if they haven't heard this, but it basically builds on this idea that we discussed of agents. So you have an agent that does your finance, you have an agent that does your cold emailing, you have an agent that does your coding. You basically have one person who can manage all of these agents and build something worth $1 billion. I actually think out of all my predictions, this is the most likely to happen, just because, not out of yours, Joe, but compared to the More Agents Than Humans one. And I think the reason is that the VC market is so absurd at the moment and so frothy that if you had, the CTO of OpenAI, Mira, I can't remember her surname. Do you remember her surname?
Mira Murad.
Her. So if she raised some stupid amount, like X billion for a seed company on an idea, I imagine she had a team. But if you had someone of that standing, the CTO of Claude going off and raising money, I think they could easily get $1 billion valuation as one person. So I think this is actually quite likely to happen, not a reflection of AI, but maybe a reflection on the humans, that one. But I think, that could happen in 2025.
Yeah, I think so. I think it kind of connects with also what you were talking about. As you said in the beginning, is this sort of agentic future where everything is kind of almost delegated to agents. I mean, it's a scary thought as well, but it is likely, and I think we are definitely going in that direction. My next one is all about a trend that I'm seeing kind of already happen or explode. And I think my prediction is more about what's going to happen afterwards. So at the moment, I'm seeing specifically in the e-commerce and marketing space, a lot of hype about AI avatars, AI influencers, AI UGC, which is obviously not UGC, but it's AI generated. And so what I think is going to happen is this is going to explode. Loads of companies are going to jump on that bandwagon, and a lot of this, I guess, fake user-generated video is going to flood the gates of any social media. And so I think this will have probably like kind of in the beginning, most people won't know that this is fake, but I think over time people will start catching on. And my prediction is that essentially that is going to really erode consumer trust, and it will really erode consumer trust in social media and in influencers. And so that's really interesting because I think, so much of e-commerce right now is like, about building genuine relationships with influencers, these influencers becoming brand ambassadors, representing your brand. Well, in a world where you can't really figure out who is real and what's not, I think more and more consumers are going to be very, how can I say, selective about what they choose to listen to. And I think in addition, what I think is going to happen within that space is also the emergence of the sort of the faceless video creators. So like in essence, removing the agency of influencers and becoming more focused on the content without necessarily it being so, I guess, human-centered in a way.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one. I think I don't know. I'll give an augmentation to this prediction, which is I think we could see real human influencers augment themselves with AI. So probably not like the Kim Kardashians of the world, but all these random OnlyFans people, right, who kind of are no name and therefore like are willing to do whatever they can. These people augmenting themselves to be super personalized. I think humans are like fundamentally interested in humans and not in AI, and that's why we still watch football, even though we still watch the 100 meters, even though machines could outperform years and years ago. So I don't think we're going to have. I don't think it'll replace people, but yeah, I think certain people will use this in a way where they can kind of like 100x, 1000x their own output with AI generated content, and probably this will start in like the porn industry. My prediction would be.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I don't think it's going to replace it, but I think for a period of time, I think people, consumers, and I guess social media users, which is all of us, are going to be quite.
I don't have Instagram, so not all of us.
All right, there you go. What's your next one?
So now I'm getting into more wacky ones.
Go on.
AI translations for pets. So yeah, I think this could be. I think this is probably closer than people think. Yeah, I mean, realistically, I don't think we'll see it in 2025, but I think it's an interesting one to think about. So there's a bunch of people who are working on this when I was researching it, which kind of gives me hope and excitement that it could happen.
I've heard about this.
Google have done a Translate for Pets, which is an Android app aimed at transcribing animal sounds into human language. Obviously, it's more of an MVP kind of idea at the moment. It's not fully functional, otherwise we probably all would be using it. We have Bark GPT, which is an initiative on translating dog barks into understandable human language using AI models. Meow Talk for cats, and Zoolinga, which is another startup which is doing this kind of dog translation into and body language into human. So I think this will eventually be reached. Like I genuinely believe there'll be some communication or some sort of an understanding between the where we can understand the pets through AI, and I think pets somewhat understand us anyway in English, so maybe it can augment it in some ways. But yeah, I believe this will happen. Large language models are a language. That's what they do, and why not go and train it on millions of videos of like dogs barking when there's food compared to when they're scared, and I'm sure this is just a maths problem at this point and a data problem, and I think we'll get there. is my view.
Yeah, no, I think this is really interesting. I read about this like a few months ago, and I think it kind of makes sense. I mean, I guess you can't call it a language, but there is certain patterns in how animals communicate, and so we just haven't necessarily focused too much time and effort, maybe as humans, to decipher that. I would definitely add babies. I think maybe there will be probably like a spew of apps that will have interpretation of baby sounds, which I think is a gold mine for parents.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I was at dinner with my friend the other day who has a baby, because I'm getting to that age, and he was saying that they have this woman on WhatsApp who basically can like understand the baby, and it's their full-time job. And she, if something's happening with the baby, they WhatsApp her, and she'll be like, "What's the baby doing? What's the baby doing?" And then she'll be like, "Okay, do X, Y, Z," and it will like stop crying. And she's
the baby whisperer.
Exactly. So I didn't know that existed, but it exists. So yeah, I agree. Like, only a matter of time that she trains her. They upload her brain into AI, as you said in your previous prediction, and we all benefit from it.
Amazing. I mean, like she's probably raking a lot of money out of that for desperate parents. Right. Actually, my next one is leading nicely, and it's around data analysis, which I think it kind of, you see what I mean by data analysis. So I think till now, sort of till 2022, most of our data analysis tools were always kind of focusing on quantitative data and sort of structured data, which is basically numbers to analyze something. And I think now with large language models, we are actually moving into data analysis sort of, I guess, revolution, which is focused on qualitative data. So like basically large language models, which are not only extracting numbers, but extracting words, tone of voice, facial expressions. And as you say, a dog bark or a cat's meow can actually produce a lot of additional unstructured data, which LLMs can handle. So, I think we are definitely not necessarily realizing how much data there is about our world, our day-to-day tasks in terms of even work that are not codified by numerical data, but now because of what large language models can do, they can extract that data and then analyze it. The simplest way in which this is already happening and people maybe don't realize is, for example, all of this lovely AI call companions. So the video apps that sit on your call and record your conference calls. Well, a lot of them actually have a way to record and analyze the intonation of the speakers at the time. And I think more and more we'll see that with let's say, analyzing facial expressions. So this is just one simple example, but just think about our world and how much data there is in terms of everything that we do, and we haven't necessarily codified. Actually, yesterday I was watching a really brilliant event organized by Clear Ads, and there was just a sort of A-star lineup of speakers. But one of the speakers is, it was talking about, one of the speakers, like our favorite John Durkis, was talking about some of the AI apps that he uses as part of his agency. And they are exactly this, for example, he uses Neurons AI and Dragonfly AI, which are essentially AI tools that help extract and predict kind of advertising performance based on heat maps. And so where does the view and the mouse of users fall in on a particular page or on a particular ad. So I think the sort of our ability to analyze the world around us is going to really expand in terms of what we can do and how we use data.
Yeah, I think this is a really smart point, Jo, honestly, about having changing from quantitative to qualitative data. So yeah, not doing just numbers and data points, but now having, as you say, this like I hadn't thought about it before. It does open up a whole new world of marketing, advertising, politics, probably many different applications. So yeah, very cool one.
Thank you. What's your next?
So my next one is actually my last one. You've got a few more than me, but anyway, my last one is AI powered dream manipulation. Yeah. So again, I was kind of looking at, as I was doing these, I was just looking at what interesting companies are building, and a few companies are building in this space to analyze brain patterns and then enable people to kind of guide their subconscious. A few different applications. Obviously, there's a fun one of just like having loads of fun in your dreams, which I think would be very cool and sell very well. And then obviously you have, they're like overcoming phobias and kind of like subtle ways of hypnotizing yourself almost to kind of get off a drug or whatever you may be struggling with. So some of these startups, Prophetic, this has a headpiece called the Halo that helps you to induce lucid dreams. Anyone who's had a lucid dream, I've had a few, know that they're great fun. So that would be great fun. REM Space, again, different startup, is helping people to communicate in dreams. So you kind of, I've seen the images or the demo of this where you have like two people lying in a bed and they're kind of like literally talking to each other in their dream.
Wow.
Not quite sure that will be doing why you'd want that, but they're doing it. And then MIT Dream Lab, sorry, I should say, are working on, again, a wearable device called Dormio that can track and interact with your dreams. And it's a glove, apparently, that you can kind of use to influence your dreams. So I think, yeah, again, as I said, these are getting more and more to the kind of science fiction as I kind of got through them, but it's interesting, right? It's a cool space, and I'm sure, in 50 years we'll probably have cracked this, or 100 years. I don't know if we'll do it by next year, but what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think again, actually, this ties in with what we just discussed. I think dreams and like how the brain works has always been sort of like a fascination of ours. I think actually one of my best friends is a neuroscientist, and a lot of what she does is essentially learn about how dreams work, how people dream, like the different cycles we go through in dreaming. And I think AI is only going to allow us to sort of progress with this kind of research. But I also think that like with everything, once people kind of crack how to control and manipulate this, it will become a commercial thing. So I'm not at all surprised that people are already, I guess, imagining a future where, we are manipulating these dreams for commercial purposes. I am very sheepish about the closer AI gets to our brain and gets to what we think, how we dream, etc., the more I'm getting like really scared. But yeah, I think this is just where I guess,
I mean, my big thing, and this is when I kind of get the tinfoil hat on, is that this influence of AI is already happening, and it's happened for years. And it's called TikTok, and it's called Twitter, and it's called Instagram, and we've all been subject to it for 10 years, and we're living through it. So as we're talking about generative AI and agentic AI, but good old fashioned kind of deterministic AI of the algorithms.
Yeah,
that's been that we're already seeing the impact. Yeah, okay, maybe this could all get worse, but I don't know what could be much worse than like a direct line of a direct line of a company owned by a malicious foreign power feeding into all of the youth of the UK, the US, and they're checking it 2-3 hours a day. Like what scenario could be worse than that we have?
I think the worst, what scenario could be worse is that power, like not just being able to manipulate what we think, but actually knowing what we think.
But I mean, I think they probably know a lot more than we know, right? I think there's a lot more stuff, and I think they are purposefully feeding content that they know disrupts the political discourse in America, and I think that's why we have all of this polarization, and we have all of like these like massive issues exploding that I'm not going to get into it too much, that maybe we're not so much of issues a few 10, 20 years ago, is because this is a direct consequence of the content that people are seeing every day, hour after hour, and it's chipping away at them. But anyway, your next prediction, Jo.
Yeah. So I have actually a couple good ones. So I think we touched upon that in the last episode, but I think voice will become like basically our new way to interact with the online world, and particularly from an e-commerce point of view, I think it's going to be also the dominant way in terms of how we shop. So I think the first piece that we need to think about, which is already happening, and although it's not necessarily immediately evident, but I think it's going to become more and more prevalent, is obviously how we interact with AI chatbots, which is step one, which is instead of searching for, let's say, keywords, we're now having a conversation. Okay, but conversations, when you type, take time, and we know that humans are lazy. And so the next, I guess, thing that developed was the introduction of advanced voice mode in ChatGPT, which now, since last week, has also visual. So like you basically have a voice and visual at the same time. So you can chat with like ChatGPT while also showing it the environment, which is incredible. And so now people will get more and more used to chatting with their AI companion, like as if they are a normal person. So this is actually like piecing together nicely all the stuff, all the other things that I mentioned, which is all around the AI knowing you and you trusting it, and also developing an emotional relationship, and sort of like basically trusting like a lot. It's because there will be this kind of association of voice that is kind of in itself a vehicle for emotional information. So I think the more we chat with voice, the more that kind of loop is going to happen more and more. And so, it's not a surprise that, Amazon, you mentioned it last time, Amazon is not shutting down Alexa. No, quite the opposite. It's now actually feeding Alexa with Claude Smart, because it's a much better chatbot, much more human sounding. So I think over time, as also latency decreases, so like what is the the pause between you saying something and the AI chatbot responding, and the more natural that interaction becomes, the more that will be sort of our preferred way to like interact with the entire online world. So I think this is definitely going to happen more and more, I think, in 2025. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a story I don't think I've told on this podcast before, which is when I was doing my Amazon assessment center, the main task they had, they get all the grads in the room, and the main task they had is imagine you're CEO of Amazon and you have Alexa, dash buttons, and drones. So dash buttons, the little buttons where you would place them, you would place it above like your bathroom, and you click it and you could reorder toilet paper or whatever. And they have dash buttons to just like quickly reorder stuff. Alexa, obviously the Echo hadn't launched yet, but it was like a voice interactive shopping assistant.
Yeah.
And then drones, I think, were, people talking about drones, drone delivery, everyone knows what that is. And yeah, this was the assessment center's kind of task. And, and I was in this task kind of, none of them had launched yet. And I was like, oh, dash buttons sound like the best idea. And I remember discussing and saying, oh, voice assistants would never work. But 9 9 years later, I'm completely changed my mind. I'm aligned with you. I think the foresight of Jeff on this was brilliant. As soon as Claude is in Alexa and working smoothly, it's going to be massively disruptive to the smartphone. It's going to be massively disruptive to how people are, shopping online. It's going to take Rufus to another level. So I agree with you. This is, we discussed it last time, but 100% coming.
But I think, like, you can see that definitely, like, the evolution of AI is somehow, like, intrinsically connected with also the evolution of all of these new kind of like headsets, a new more kind of like AI VR, AR VR sort of like tech that all of the big companies are developing. Obviously first was Meta, but then now over the last week, Google has just released their newest headset. Obviously we have the Apple headset. I think with this, again, like, you very, very correctly, I think, we're going to replace the iPhone with something that is much more interactive and blurs the real and the virtual world. And all of this is going to be kind of guided by vision and voice rather than like reading and typing.
Nice. Do you have a last one? Or
I do have a last one. This one is, I guess, maybe not so sexy, but it's actually something that I think is definitely gonna happen, and I think it's like something to really think about, which is, we all know that like the success of AI and the growth of AI is underpinned by the ability for all of these companies to get their hands on as many chips as possible, and that's why Nvidia became like the most valuable company in the world recently. And it's now a race who's going to develop the biggest super chip, who's going to develop the largest kind of like infrastructure for that to happen. What I think is the next wave of, I guess, AI, and like, I guess the next, how can I say, big consideration of what is going to become a focus in terms of the development and the acceleration of AI is actually all about energy and infrastructure. So, like the way I see it is, at the moment, our world is not at all prepared or developed enough from an energy grid point of view to support the insane amount of energy and like water that is needed in order to power and cool all of this like crazy like AI like infrastructure. And so from that point of view, what I think is going to happen is there's going to be a lot of investment like that goes hand in hand, not just in terms of AI, but also in terms of like developing more like energy solutions, and anything around energy and like water is going to become like an even bigger kind of focus. And I think with that is also going to be a lot about real estate, because all of these like AI hubs require a lot of space. So we are going to see a future where these like AI hypercenters are going to become developed. And so I think a lot of the next stage is going to be around how do we develop this energy that is required to power the AI, what sort of source of energy, like how are we doing this sustainably, and also like where are we developing these hypercenters. So that's kind of my prediction. I think that will be a focus in 2025.
This is what Sam Altman was rumored to be raising trillions for, and I think Elon Musk XAI has just raised 6 billion for. So 100%, I think there'll be more focus. I think the government, and I say the US government, sadly not the UK government, but I think the US government is kind of finally waking up to the fact that they need to build chips in America. And we discussed this on our kind of election one, but like Joe Biden has done a lot of like infrastructure stuff around AI in America with Intel and other stuff. And I think Trump is doubling down on this, that's his whole spiel, right? Like build in America. And so I think definitely, I think that would be a big trend. That this AI is so critical to what we do that countries, for security purposes, will need to build it. I hope the UK government realizes this. Doesn't not seen that from them, but yeah, I saw also we had Joe, you put in some interesting ones about stocks. Do you want to touch on that quickly?
About stocks?
About stocks, yeah, about what stocks people should or shouldn't purchase.
I think, well, I just put one, which is all about Google. So they sort of like, well, I think it's kind of like written on the wall, but I think Google's days, unless they do something really quite like a sharp U-turn, are kind of numbered, at least from like a Google search point of view. You know, wrote about this in the AI for E-commerce newsletter, and I am seeing it happen more and more, which is Google is losing market share, and they are not innovating enough. And like, you know, the whole premise of how people are searching is changing. And like, you know, today I actually saw that Search GPT is now available for everyone on the free subscription. So, you know, this is
great stuff.
So, you know, it's a no-brainer what's going to happen. And so I think Google probably have to reinvent itself, just like Amazon. Well, Amazon never really needed to, but like Amazon really invested in their AWS arm and like diversified, while Google, I think, still has a lot of its like eggs in the sort of the advertising basket. And so
for the listener, that's not what Joe had written in the notes. Joe had written, Google will keep losing market share in the notes. So I thought we could end on a nice little, you know, some stock advice from Max and Joe. So, you know, who is an investor in Google? I say investor. You know who owns shares in Google? Me? Yeah, I do. And my shares are 260% up in Google. I don't have money to pay money. I also was an early investor in NVIDIA, and that is 220% up. Funny story behind that is I was on this kind of where my co-founder, we're on an entrepreneurship program, and kind of this head of this entrepreneurship program is called Entrepreneur First, and the guy's name is Matt Clifford. And you know, we happened to be the program where Gen AI became a thing. Like the models were released during our program, then ChatGPT launched on our program. Like AI suddenly became a thing, you know, whilst we were there. Which was just amazing timing for us. But anyway, they didn't invest in any AI companies. And he said, this is back in 2022. He said, oh, if I wanted to invest in AI, I just buy NVIDIA's share. And he didn't invest in us, which I think I hope they will live to regret. But at the time, I was like, oh, NVIDIA, what is this thing he's talking about? So I looked it up. I was like, okay, like I think that's probably quite a good bet. So I invested then. And it's done very well for me. I will add two stocks, which I, you know, full disclosure, I'm also in. So we're not giving financial advice. We're just kind of having a chat between friends. But my two other big AI bets this year, and we talked about this, are HubSpot and Salesforce. These guys are building AI agents. They're going to build AI agents in, you know, sales and marketing kind of functions first, and it will fit very well into the, you know, if anyone here is using Salesforce or HubSpot, we have HubSpot. It's incredible, and it, you know, they already have all of the data on all your customers. So obviously, doing an AI agent to email everyone from HubSpot or Salesforce or engage them on social media, it just makes sense. But I think these guys are going to branch more and more out into this. So those are my two other picks in my personal portfolio, and I can say they are 37 and 47% up. I won't talk about all the ones I've lost money on because no one wants to hear about that. They only want to hear about the wins. So yeah, not that we're giving any advice, but you know, Joe's notes was the one who triggered this conversation, and I think I don't know if I'll be selling Google, but I'm very excited about what's going to happen with Salesforce and HubSpot.
Nice, cool. Well,
from you?
No, but I think this is our last episode for the year, isn't it?
It is.
Oh my goodness! And what a year it has been.
What a year! Please give us 5 stars if you've got to this point, especially if you know are not financial advice. Not financial advice. so don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, give us 5 stars. Tell us, do you agree with our predictions? Do you disagree? Let us know. But yeah, it's been great fun.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to do podcast with you, Max.
There we go. And we'll be back next year with just an incredible, like, as Joe said last time, we're booked out to April, and we're getting the creme de la creme and people you've never heard of, but the creme de la creme of the people in the e-commerce space, plus some exciting people who you'll only hear on the New Frontier.
Yeah, cool. All right. Happy Merry Christmas for anyone celebrating, and Happy New Year, and hear you guys again in 2025.
See you soon.
See you soon.